What we have here is a classic example of how to fix your car by Red Green. Don't forget to put your duct tape here to fix the upholstery, and your duct tape on the tail light, and duct tape on the marker light. Feel the burn, baby. And then we have trace evidence of a former repair of duct tape right here across the paint, right here. And if your window has a problem, just wedge a piece of wood here and here, and that'll hold it up until you can get it fixed right. We've been struggling with the diagnosis of this overheating problem on this Beetle here. 2002, can you verify that real quick? Yeah. We've been struggling with the diagnosis on this here 2002 Beetle. It's been overheating, and we've pulled the thermostat, checked the water pump wasn't broken. We have generally a flow problem here, and we just pulled this hose off the nipple on the back of the head. I don't know if you can see that. I'll show you another head, but we're getting it to flow now because we stuck a wire in there and dug around on it. We had no flow coming out of this hose here, and so the system can't vent. That leaves it usually in the state of a big air pocket, and so it doesn't transfer heat and doesn't pump. The water pump may not pump, but now that we've dug around in this nipple, let's see if I get that nipple in the camera here. There it is. And we've dug around that nipple. We're now getting flow out of there, and I think that's going to solve our problem. We're going to continue cleaning it, make sure it's clear as possible. We may even do a flush procedure on this system, and but I really think that was our problem, and that was causing overheating. We also have to be concerned that possibly the throttle body could be restricted, because that right there goes through a hose, which goes through the throttle body and then comes to this hose. So that's going to be a blessing for this woman, because we were anticipating a water pump, and we kind of gave her a price on the water pump, but we're finding that the water pump isn't broken, and so this repair, even with the diagnosis fee, is going to be much cheaper than a water pump and timing belt assembly, although she may need that stuff too. Excellent job, Cortland. Thank you. I think this is what it looks like when it's flowing good. Before, when I showed it, it was squirting out because it was partially narrowed by a restriction. So I think we've got it opened up good, and I want to reinforce, oh, there, it's restricted again. I want to reinforce that this thing was not flowing at all when we first took this hose off with the engine running. So it was completely clogged off then, and we'll probably sell her a flush procedure, and it should be a good fix. Okay, I want to set some closure on this Beetle video. We have cleaned out that orifice and done an antifreeze flush and road tested. The car does not overheat anymore. I didn't take a lot of good video on this, but I think I got the gist of it in the video. The car was overheating. As we tested it, measuring the temperature of the radiator, the heat from the engine was not transferring into the radiator. It literally acted like a broken water pump or a stuck closed thermostat. So we did pull the thermostat out, look at it, didn't test it or anything, but we checked the water pump. The water pump was fine. It was not busted. We put everything back together. We tinkered with it. We were on the verge of selling her a radiator for a lack of flow problem when we discovered that there was no flow at the small nipple at the antifreeze reservoir. And after we backtracked it, by the way, that is usually a sign of a busted impeller in the water pump, but on this one it wasn't busted. Eventually we did take the thermostat out and run the car, and that didn't solve the problem. Once again, leading us to believe the radiator was clogged. But eventually, when we found no flow through that small hose in the reservoir, we did realize that there could be a clog in the throttle body, but we backtracked and there was no clog there. But there was a clog in that nipple on the head, and when we pulled the hose off that nipple on the head, no antifreeze came out, none, zero. So we probed around in there with a wire. I think there is a small restriction or orifice in there, so don't go drilling it out or knocking that thing out of there. But we were able to clean it out, and it seemed like it would clog off and then flow again, then clog off. So we had to keep digging at it. Maybe there was some scaling or some rust in there that was clogging it off repeatedly. But eventually, we blew through it, flushed it, blew through it, flushed it, and eventually we think we got it good and clean, and it seemed to last. At the end of the video, I did say something along the lines of it was partially restricted, and that's when it was jetting out, and it wasn't restricted, and that was when the antifreeze was just running out in more of a slow, steady stream. I'm not sure that was like clogging off or not. Maybe that was due to the thermostat opening and closing, so take that with a grain of salt. But the car is fixed. We did road test it, worked fantastic, and the young girl, obviously she doesn't have much money, so her car's in a little duct tape shape, but she was very happy that she didn't have to buy a water pump and stuff. She probably needs that stuff. Maybe she'll come back and do it later. But if you learned anything in this video, like and subscribe, and visit my website at www.kansascitytdi.com. If you'd like to contribute financially to the continued production of these videos, find the donate button on my website.